This episode of the WP Minute is brought to you by Pressable. You know what the best hosting feels like? Nothing. No panic alerts. No mystery downtime. No, hey, is the site down? Slack messages. That's the Pressable experience. WordPress hosting so reliable you forget it's even there. We keep your site fast, secure, and up 100% of the time, so you can get back to building, selling, blogging, or binging cat videos. No judgment, whatever you want to do. Go to Pressable.com/WP Minute and try hosting that disappears in all the right ways. Pressable.com/WP Minute. Pressable.com/WP Minute. Thanks, Pressable, for supporting the show. Zach Stepik, welcome to the WP Minute.
Thank you, Matt. It's good to be here.
You and I have been chatting and running into each other at WordCamps for decades, it seems. It's good to have you on the show to find out more about what you're up to these days.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity.
You're at BigScoots. We're going to learn more about what your title and day-to-day is. For the I must disclose that BigScoots is a sponsor of the WP Minute. We appreciate BigScoots sponsorships. Really helps us get content, great content like this out, and helps the team for sure. Thank you, BigScoots. Thanks to all of our sponsors at the WPMinute.com/sponsors. Jack, what do you do at BigScoots these days?
So my title is Director of Partner Programs. Basically what that means is that I help all of our partners find success working with our team. That extends to agency partnerships and technology partners. So we work with a number of WordPress-related organizations that, create plugins or SaaS products that tie into WordPress, and everyone from Memberful, which is a division of Patreon, all the way to form plugins like Formidable. We have a whole bunch of people that we work with, and then on the agency side, my job is to help our agency partners to succeed with our platform, get to know our team, and really just turn hosting from this thing that overwhelms people into a profit center.
By the time the listeners are watching this, there will be a new course on the WPMinute.com/courses, and it'll be about choosing great web hosts, especially if you're a freelancer or an agency. We don't point to a specific web host or show control panels. What we're trying to illustrate is how one goes through the thought process of picking a great host. And part of it is for the agencies, that relationship with the customer is oh so important. I want to talk about transparency from your experience in the WordPress world. I know when I started my agency many, many years ago, I had a different tact because I was a systems administrator at a hosting company before I started my agency. So I knew that web hosting was important for us as a revenue stream, right? As a profit center, as you put it. But the thing I was really kind of lacking, because I kind of knew what I was doing to a degree, was I wasn't transparent with the customer. I wasn't saying that we were the ones running the infrastructure, which I should have. So that was a lesson learned early on. I'm curious how you think about transparency with the agency partners that you have. Do you encourage them to say, hey, customers, you're on BigScoots, they do the infrastructure. You don't have to call them. You can still call me as the agency owner. How does that relationship and that transparency work in your world?
Yes, there's a couple of things there to unpack. One is that, individual agencies have different ideas on how much they want to share with their customers about what they're doing, right? And we give agencies the option of either having their customers work directly with us and have the bill come, from us to them, or reselling our services and, having the hosting plan be with the agency. The cool thing about that is, we've set it up so that either way the agency wins. And so every agency in our agency partner program gets a direct Slack channel where they can talk to our support team about any problems that are happening for any of their customers. All their customers are flagged as theirs. And so if a problem happens that we notice proactively, which normally is the case, we will reach out to the agency and let the agency know. we generally know there's an issue before the customer does in most cases. So we're very proactive in that way, and we keep the agency involved at the level they want to be. So yeah, that's the first thing to kind of unpack there. The other thing is that you came from hosting to agency ownership. I came from agency ownership to hosting. So we have similar perspectives in that, we've been on both sides of that coin. And as an agency owner, I was always looking for partners that were true partners, not just a vendor. And that's what we're running here, is a true partnership program.
Yeah. How does I want to have you define what true partnership program means? I remember my days at Pagely, which came after running the agency. This is before they sold to GoDaddy. I was an account executive. A lot of the partnership stuff that we did with agencies was a lot of pre-sales, a lot of supporting the customer, helping them, diagram or blueprint what a hosting solution might look like for an enterprise client. And then hopefully seeing that all the way through to onboarding the client onto our infrastructure, where the agency would then take and do their thing with it. What does the partnership mean to you? Just unpack that for BigScoots.
Yeah, so the first piece is really being that support system that they can count on. So if an agency wants to have me co-pitch hosting with them, I'll go in and do that. If they want our team to, go and do an audit of a website and tell them what we see that's wrong, pre-launch, post-launch, whatever, we'll do that too. Like we don't want to be just a vendor that provides hosting, right? We could do that all day, but we know that the true success of hosting comes from that personal relationship. So, we have a support team that has 90-second SLA for ticket responses, and they meet that constantly. We have a net promoter score of 95 average for the year right now, which is insane. It's really, really high. So 95 out of 100 points. And that's the average for the year. We have some support reps on our team that have a 100 for the year right now. We have some that have a 100 for their entire time with us. And the reason why is we're so focused on being a help, not just a vendor. So that's what partnership means to me, is really digging in, fixing problems together, being a trusted partner, not just someone who, you reach out to when things go bad. For example, we have a performance team run by another Zach. There are actually 3 Zachs at BigScoots, which is weird. I've never had that happen before. And so Zach Alfort runs our performance services, and that performance team can take the headache of, monitoring core web vitals and do that for our agency customers or for our direct customers. And they proactively monitor and watch core web vitals to make sure that changes to the site haven't had a severe impact on, core web vitals and rankings. And so little things like that go beyond just hosting to providing a more complete solution. And that more complete solution is designed to assist agencies in running better businesses, having better relationships with their customers. If you never have to worry about hosting, and that the support team is always going to have your back, you stop having to babysit hosting as yet another thing on your to-do list. And you can just sit there and let it passively assist your customers.
So for the agency or freelance owner that's listening to this now, they might be thinking, okay, this is great. Like, I am looking for a partner. I'm looking for a host that can help me, solve my problems and hopefully my client problems. Is there a best fit for BigScoots customer? Put you on the hot seat a little bit. Is there one that's like really good for the BigScoots infrastructure or control panel? Like, what fits the mold best at BigScoots? Therefore, maybe the agency owners listening to this go, I've got those types of customers. Let me bring them over to BigScoots.
Yeah, I mean, we really started. So first of all, BigScoots has been around for 15, almost 16 years now. And not a lot of people know that because we've only really focused on marketing and external outreach for like 2 years. And so that was when Tim Monner, our CMO, joined, and we started to actually try to participate in the community a little further than we had before. The business was built on word of mouth, and we really built around content creators, a lot of food bloggers and that kind of site. And some of those grew to be rather large. So we got really good at hosting large content websites. That extended really well into large dynamic websites, things like, learning management systems or e-commerce on WooCommerce. And we've had some really huge success stories running highly dynamic websites. One of the differentiators for us is we actually own our own infrastructure. We have our own data centers. Like, this is weird to me because I've been at 4 hosting companies now, but this is the first time that I've had a badge to walk in with a badge and a fingerprint to actually access a physical data center with servers.
Yeah.
Because of that, we can deploy hardware to fit a need. So, we had a WooCommerce customer that had pretty significant traffic at bursts, and we deployed a 200 core server for them. You can't do that on AWS or Google Cloud right now. That's just not, it's not reality. And then we can physically locate a database server next to a web server and network them up to each other because we control what's in the rack, right? And so we're able to do things in a way that other people just don't. And, our modern architecture makes us fast. We're doing things like working with Ceph storage, and we have, 400 gigabit connections and the network layer across our entire data center. We were the first host to work with Cloudflare, so we have a direct fiber connection to Cloudflare's network, one hop away, and every customer gets the benefits of Cloudflare free because all our traffic's routed through it no matter what. So it's really cool to say that we can do, the really hard stuff. We're also really good at the really easy stuff too. Our plans run the gamut, from $35 a month for a single site all the way up to, thousands of dollars a month for a dedicated server. Generally we come in 30 to 40% cheaper than the competition.
Yeah. I remember some of my best days, my most fun days at the hosting company I worked for many, many, many years ago when the co-location that we had our servers, or one of them, was I don't know, like 20 minutes away, and it was in Providence, Rhode Island. And I would love it when there was like a disk failure happening. We'd get the reports. This is long ago, right? This is like when people weren't as concerned when the hard drive started to die. It wasn't like this massively urgent thing. And it was like, yes, I get to go to the co-location to swap out this disk. And I would get to see, because it was a shared co-location, I get to see like all the other tech that people were putting in their cabinets and their racks and stuff like that. And it was like always, it was great because I could go for lunch and downtown Providence, which was great. But it was also cool to go and like see all that tech in a data center. So you actually have physical access to the data center to do this stuff.
Yeah, we have 2 that are currently spun up in the Chicago area. We're expanding with a failover site in Virginia. We have some presence in Europe, and we're looking to expand that further in Germany specifically, either Hamburg or Frankfurt. So it's really cool to be at this like inflection growth point with the company too, where we're starting to expand outside of just the one Chicago data center we started with, and do things like, high availability failover for a site. So even if the entire Chicago data center over by McCormick Place went down, we'd still have Virginia up and running or Elk Grove up and running, and we'd have the ability to keep sites up and have a disaster recovery plan for things like that. So, for those enterprise and mid-market workflows where, uptime matters more than anything because you're losing money every second the site is down, we're really well equipped to handle that.
Yeah. I'm curious if you have a take on how the agency owner, again, freelancer, should be thinking about their business differently, if at all, or maybe it's the experience or the touch points with customers. When maybe many of them starting off, they're very used to like, hey, customer, it's like $20 to $50 to host your WordPress site. It's managed. They do the updates, backups for staging sites, etc. But like eventually that customer says, or that agency is like, I need to grow. I want to get into these enterprise plans that Zach's talking about, like 20 core server installs or like, replicated databases and failover and all this stuff. How should they think about going after that type of larger business or enterprise type of business? What do you think has to change in the mindset of approaching that kind of customer?
I think it's not being risk averse helps a lot. When I was running my agency, the size of the projects we were doing grew exponentially from the start. Right away we were working with 6-figure, 7-figure contracts. And when you get to that point, you have to look at the every opportunity and see if your team fits it well. But also, you have to sometimes just jump and hope that the parachute opens. Because, if you don't, if you stay risk averse, you're going to stay at the size you are. Growth requires risk. So that's part of it. But how can you temper that risk? And, part of what I'm building here is a way to temper risk by having a trusted partner that you can go to that can make sure that the infrastructure side of how the site is served is just handled. That way you don't have to worry about it. You just build good websites, and if you build well and you lean on our team for performance optimization or at least just advice on how to optimize further, you can, the sky's the limit. You can launch a site into outer space, and we've seen it happen numerous times. The Shark Tank effect is real, right?
Yeah. One of the things that I've seen recently is, this is a bit of an aside, but still part of this conversation, is I've seen WooCommerce come out to be more squarely competing against Shopify. And actually yesterday recorded an episode that would have aired before this one with Brian Cords. He's now one of the developer advocates at WooCommerce. And WooCommerce is really putting the marketing speak behind like ownership and total cost of ownership. But they don't really say anything about hosting so much, like because I think with my experience at Pagely, seeing people spending thousands, if not tens of $1,000s a month for big e-commerce. Stuff does get pretty expensive. It doesn't mean you're going to run a multi-million-dollar WooCommerce store on $50 a month. So I'm curious your take on how agencies should prepare the mindset of the customer to go, hey, we can do this for you, we can grow, but it's not all just cheap and free, because I think that's the thing that happens with WordPress. Like, you might start to spend some money as you grow, as you should, But I'm just curious your take on like how agencies should accelerate that thinking for their customer to massage their way into understanding these costs.
Well, I like to use analogies a lot. And the analogy I like to use for hosting is that if you were running a retail business and you were looking for a location for your storefront, you would go out and look for a place with good foot traffic, with, anchor stores that are going to bring people to you. And those things still exist in the virtual world, right? There are ways to be able to handle more traffic, and hosting has a lot to do with that. So when a business is first starting out, they likely don't need a Madison Avenue address. But eventually, if they're in Chicago, they're going to want to be on Michigan Avenue and the Magnificent Mile eventually, right? That's the goal. That's the retail dream. And so when you're first starting out, yeah, sure, you can run a WooCommerce site on a $35 a month server. You can run it on less than that if you wanted to. I wouldn't, but you can. Then from there, you're going to grow. And as you grow, the needs of your space will change. And so the cool thing about websites is that they operate kind of as a 24-hour a day, 365 day a year salesperson. So it's like having a staff member that's constantly pitching, right? And so you need retail space for them to pitch in, and you need to keep them, in a place where the lights are on, things are working, so that they can show off your product. So those two things matter a ton. The cool thing about WooCommerce is anybody can start for nothing, right? And a lot of people compare that to Shopify and they think, okay, Shopify starts out cheap too. Well, yeah, they do. But with that comes a percentage of your total sales going through ShopPay. And they take an additional percentage of your business in addition to just hosting the site, right? And then you can build up to different tiers from there where that amount goes down. But in all of those cases, you're using ShopPay or you're paying to not use ShopPay. And Shopify makes their money off your growth. So once you get to the enterprise level, they're owning a significant percentage of your business that could be millions of dollars in revenue. So if you look at that and you compare that to the hosting cost of, $25,000 a month for a Madison Avenue address or a Michigan Avenue address, right? When you compare that, you're paying significantly less to own your own data, to own your site, to own your destiny. And you're not subject to the whims of a company who may decide they no longer want your market segment because there might be a problem with, something's legality or, there's this whole concept of restricted products that are very hard for Shopify to host. There are a number of categories that have traditionally been difficult. Cannabis is one of them, right? Shopify doesn't like to host that kind of stuff, and their agreements with ShopPay and the providers that power ShopPay don't allow them to. So there are restrictions there that you might run into as well. So really having control of your destiny, owning your data, not living in somebody else's black box. If you want an address in the mall, by all means, Shopify is a great mall. If you want that high profile address with great storefront, with, the ability to grow and scale to whatever limit you want, then WooCommerce might be a better choice. And, so that's what I've always liked about Woo, is that freedom. It's the freedom of open source, right? It's the same freedom that we talk about when we're talking about WordPress in general. You own your destiny. You own your site. You don't have to, stay where you are. If you want to grow and you want to go somewhere else, you can take your business somewhere else. When you build on a SaaS like Shopify, you can't take your business somewhere else without hiring a construction crew to rebuild your store.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder, like, as you were explaining it and using those analogies, it's, I mean, God, for decades, again, we've talked about WordPress as a marketing problem. Like, what is it? Who's it for? Like, all this stuff. And like, as you say all that about WooCommerce, it's like, well, that's also the argument for WordPress in general, right? So I'm wondering, this is not really a question. This is just thoughts that came into my head as you were talking, but like seeing the new direction of WooCommerce or Woo's marketing, I'm wondering if it works better for what I'll call the average user because it's business now, right? So it's, this is, now that I'm talking business, you've got my attention, right? As like the small store owner, somebody who makes arts and crafts, all the way to somebody's like selling auto parts. They're like, okay, you've got my attention because this is for business. But before, when we were trying to tell you about WordPress and like owning your data, they're like, the hell do I need that for? Like, I'll just use this Weebly thing. And you're like, no. Like, you need to use something that's open source so you can move this data. But now that it's business, I'm wondering if I don't know, just a general thought, like, do you think people pay attention more to that because it's business?
I think they do to a point. The thing about Shopify is they've got a ridiculous amount of money, and they translated that into a ridiculous amount of advertising, right? You can't go anywhere without hearing about Shopify. I can't even listen to a podcast about crime without hearing about Shopify. Like, that's...
I just want to jump in for a second. I'll tell you what they're doing, which is the freaking worst thing. As somebody who is listens to a lot of podcasts, probably just like you, who's been podcasting now for almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
They use some intern at Shopify said, let's do these host read ads or these dynamic ads and go find a free bell checkout sound to put in all the ad. It is the most annoying sound signature I've ever heard because it's just the worst. It's so loud and not like you're probably listening to crime and all of a sudden you hear ding ding and it's like, this is the worst thing in the world. It's not like the days of like everyone probably knows like the Intel chime or HBO when HBO starts, like the dun-dun or the Netflix, same thing. Like you understand it, you hear what's happening. Shopify has made something so terrible that some intern picked. It drives me nuts. Anyway, I have to get off my soapbox. But yes, continue. Lots of advertising, lots of podcasts.
Yeah, so they do all of that, and it makes them seem like they are the solution because they're just everywhere, right? It's kind of like a few years ago when you used to watch late night television and ShipStation would have an ad and you'd see Eric from Beard Brand on there, right?
Yep.
I mean, it was ubiquitous. It was everywhere. And that's great because it's good for them. It's good for their investors. But remember, they have investors. That's who they're trying to help. Open source, we're trying to help you. Like, that's the end goal is that the users of open source have the ability to grow on a platform that they can control and own. That's a huge difference. No arbitrary rules, that are going to hurt you in the long term, or have the potential to hurt you in the long term. It's just a much more open and, for lack of a better word, way to build a website. And having run an e-commerce focused agency that did a lot of WooCommerce work, we had customers that were forced by acquisition or by whatever to move from WooCommerce to Shopify. In one case, the migration of the subscription data for a website was so badly migrated that they lost 40% of their business as the migration happened. Why? Because their entire business was built on subscribe and save. And the tokens for those payments didn't move over the way that they were promised they would when they moved to Shopify. So, it's really just about, in that case, them trying to get logos. That's their job. The Shopify sales team is getting logos. That's the whole job.
Yeah, it's just funny you say that because I was talking to somebody earlier today about enterprise sales and stuff like that. And it's just like, it has nothing to do with I mean, this is just my take. I guess people can disagree, but I think like in the enterprise space, when you're selling into the enterprise space, it has less to do about the product than it does about you getting in and adhering to the buying process of that enterprise. Can you find the right people? Can your legal team agree to their terms? Right? Then can your info team or infosec team adhere to whatever security scrutinies or processes that this enterprise has? And then they agree on price. And then it's the product. It's like all of this stuff and then the product. And that's why enterprise is so slow, but also so lucrative once you get in, you get these hooks into these enterprise. Because like you said, you get the logo, you take that logo, you go to the next enterprise and you go, hey, look what General Motors just bought from me. Don't you want this too, Hyundai of America? And they're like, well, I guess if General Motors bought it, and then the whole process starts again. It's a machine I'm glad I'm not in anymore, to be honest with you.
If you look at picking on our own industry here, if you look at the highest end WordPress agencies that are out there, what do their sites lead with? Logos, right? Because at that level, the logos you have matter to the people making these purchasing decisions. And, it sucks that that's the case because it's hard to break in, to that space unless you are really good at selling. You have to be a really good salesman. I've had the opportunity to work with some really good salesmen over the years. Worked directly with Jake Goldman at 10up, now Fueled for a while. And Jake just operates at a different level than most people. And, that's why 10up has done as well as they have and why Fueled is, continuing to grow. That is a very specific skill set that you have to develop by jumping in. You can't learn to swim without getting in the water, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a big thing. And I've learned a ton from other people that have jumped in, started at the deep end and learned to swim. And so it's really cool. Yeah, it is that pursuit of logos is a really big thing. The enterprise procurement process is crazy. The government procurement process is crazier.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah, we could run a whole podcast episode on that. But speaking of procuring logos and showing off logos, where can folks find BigScoots next? Events, online webinars, and then where can folks go, especially agency owners, where can they go to learn more about partnering up with BigScoots?
Yeah, so we're going to be pretty much everywhere we can be for the foreseeable future, but the next show for myself and the team, we're actually splitting. We'll be in two places at once. I will be with James Webb, our COO, at my brain just stopped. Let me reset.
Host CloudFest.
I will be at CloudFest USA with myself and James, and then Tim Monner and other members of the team will be at Mediavine's conference, MediavineCon. Because like I said, we have a lot of people in the content creation space, and we have a partnership with Mediavine where we provide hosting that optimizes the delivery of those sites for revenue. So ad networks take pixels and things, and those can have an impact on performance. So we've been working with Mediavine to lessen that, and we're seeing 5% lift in some of those properties in revenue just by switching hosts, which is pretty cool.
And that's going to be that's actually the same time. So November 5th to the 7th.
Yeah. So that Mediavine Con is in Boston, I believe. And then we'll also be in Miami at the same time. We'll be at Tastemakers in January. I believe we'll have people at WordCamp Asia. We'll have people at WordCamp Europe. I'm going to try to go to as many WordCamps as I can next year, just to, be out there because I love the community and I've missed it. We'll be at WordCamp US. We should be at PressConf in the spring as well. So pretty much anywhere you can think, we'll try to be there. if you don't meet up with us at a show and you just want to reach out and talk to us about agency, partnership, or about hosting in general, you can go to our website at BigScoots.com. You can find us at BigScoots pretty much everywhere. If you want to email me, like I said, there are 3 Zachs in the company, so I had to find a way to stand out from that. So you can go to z@bigscoots.com, z@bigscoots.com to reach me. And if you don't want to talk to me about any of that and you just want to talk to me about concert photography, you can follow my Instagram at zstepic.
Fantastic stuff. Go to bigscoots.com. There's a little button too. Click to talk to a human. It's a very rare thing these days, but I think very important.
No AI, all real people.
Yeah. That's gonna be the value driver for the next 5 to 10 years.
I think so.
All humans, no AI. I love it. I mean, I think that's important. Thanks, Zach. Thanks for hanging out today. Thanks, Big Scoots, for sponsoring the WP Minute. Thank you for listening. The WPMinute.com/subscribe. Thanks for listening to the WP Minute, part of the Matt Report Media Network. This episode wouldn't be possible without our amazing pillar sponsors, Pressable, Kinsta, GoDaddy, 20i, and Elementor. These brands are supporting WordPress media and helping us invest in your future as a WordPress professional. Our Foundation Plus sponsors like Hostinger, Big Scoots, Stellar WP, Personalized WP, Weglot, and Patchstack help us keep the lights on. Thanks to all of our members in the WP Minute Slack channel, which you can join too. Head on over to thewpminute.com/support to get access. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to hit the share button or tell a friend about this podcast. See you in the next one.